Hey everyone, my name is McKenna, also known as Sylphic Studios, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. And today I'm bringing you another custom doll. If you watched my last couple of videos, you would have heard me mention the next shop dolls that I've been working on. And today I am super excited to show you one of them. So ever since last October, whenever I made my Hysteria Alice doll, I've gotten a lot of comments asking if I'm selling her. And unfortunately I am not, she is my baby child. So I figured I would remake her as well as my blue dress Alice for you guys to purchase. So today we'll be making Hysteria Alice. And she will be for sale next week, so if you're interested in all the details, make sure to stick around for the end of the video. But without further ado, let's get into the customizing, starting with prepping. So for all of my Alice customs, I like to combine two different dolls together. I always like to use G3 Spectra for her head and then G3 Twyla for her body. Alice seems to have a very petite stature, and then her face has like a very I don't know, sunken in, sad expression, and I feel like Spectra is great for that. So I'll be using both of them. So as always, I am starting by chopping off their hair. Since I'm using Spectra's face, I am just showing you the process of me doing Spectra's head. I also did Twyla just off camera. I didn't want to show you guys the same process twice, so I'm just showing you Spectra. And here I am just hacking at her head to get all of her hair off. After I get the main chunk of hair off, I always like to go in with a fan brush and just dust off all of the extra hair. And then I go in for round 2 just to shorten it as short as I can. So now that both dolls have a nice clean shave, I'm just going in and boiling their heads. This makes it way easier to behead them because we do need to take all of their hair out. Once her head was pulled off, it's time to give her a lobotomy. So I'm just taking my super long nose, like needle nose pliers, and scraping the crap out of the inside of her head to get all of the old stubble out. I always do this while the head is still warm, like right after I remove it, because this makes removing the stubble way easier. This is what both dolls look like, completely bald. Since I don't need Twyla's head, I will be putting her to the side for now for a different project. So now we will just be using Spectra. And now to prep Spectra for her reroot, I am just taking some black paint on my flat brush and just brushing it all around her scalp. I like to outline the hairline first just to make it easier to fill in the middle so I don't have to worry about being too messy. Now that her scalp is all painted, let's get into the actual reroot. So for her hair, I decided to use Nightmare from Shimmerlocks as always. It is just my tried and true, and I prefer to work with nylon, so I am using nylon hair. And for my rerooting method, I just do the usual method. I don't do like the knot method or anything. I know that method can make the hair more secure, but I tried it once and I didn't like it, so I just do the normal method where you just wrap it around your finger once. And then I pick it up with my rerooting needle and stick it into the head like so. And I always start from the back of the hairline and work my way all the way around until I complete the hairline, and then work my way up from the back, and then finally doing the part line last. Since rerooting is really repetitive, I did finish it off camera, so this is what her hair looked like afterward. A lot of my hair did get messed up while I was rerooting, so if you see the shorter strands, I will be pulling those out. And I'll also be cutting her hair, so none of that will matter anyway. So now I'm just gluing her hair in there with some Fabri-Tac glue and taking a Q-tip and just rubbing it all over. I let that sit to dry overnight, so now it's time to get into the body repaint. So since Hysteria Alice is kind of like grayscale, her skin is white. So I'm just taking my watered down satin acrylic paint on my flat brush and painting all of her limbs and her body. If you guys are interested in learning how to do body repaints, I uploaded a tutorial last year you guys should go check out. I do plan on uploading like an updated version soon. I just have so many projects and ideas in the works right now. Same with like the yarn weft hair and the rerooting tutorial. I just have so many other things going on, so I will get to those, I promise. I'm just working on a lot of things. This was her body repaint after one coat of paint. As always, it is a very trust the process type of process. It takes a lot of layers of paint. I don't even know how many layers I was at this point. I'll just say that it was a lot. And once I was finally happy with the coverage, I sealed everything with watered down matte Mod Podge and sealed her with some MSC outside. For her arms and hands though, Hysteria Alice has very bloody arms and hands, so I needed to paint those red. I of course painted them white along with her body beforehand so that the red would really pop, because painting a lot of layers of red over a shade of purple I feel like just wouldn't look very good, and it would definitely take forever. So here I am just going in with some watered down red paint and just painting all of her limbs. After doing a couple coats of that red, I went in with a darker red to give it more of a bloody effect. This definitely gave it that dimension that I was looking for. And at the end I did seal these with some glossy Mod Podge to give it more of a bloody effect. And I actually didn't realize until I was putting her body back together that I painted two of the same hand. I painted two right hands. When I prepped her body, I also prepped two other Twyla bodies, so I had three of them chilling in my garage. So their arms and legs must have gotten mixed up, and I grabbed two right hands by mistake. So afterward I had to go and repaint another hand off camera. So for my other customs I'll have to figure out how to cover a bloody red hand. So that'll be fun. But anyway, now I'm getting into her face repaint, and first we have to take her face off. So I'm using some 100% acetone on some Q-tips and just rubbing all of the paint off of her face. And I get a lot of comments wondering why I paint the face after I paint the body and after I do the reroot. And it's because rerooting can be very taxing on the head because you're having to squish it every which way. And if you do a repaint, especially a full body repaint, that process will crack the paint like crazy. And I learned that the hard way, so I always recommend doing the face paint after you reconnect the head with the body so that you don't risk any cracking. So I just wanted to give you guys that little tip if you guys were ever wondering why I do it that way. So yeah, there's your little fun fact for the day. But now it's time to get into my personal favorite part, the face up. So for this face up, I actually managed to get a decent amount of footage for once. Usually my head is in the way for literally all of it. It still is, as you can see. But this one I feel actually has a lot more footage of what I'm actually doing. So as always, I'm just taking my mechanical pencil and sketching in all of her features. I always prime my faces with Mr. Super Clear beforehand. This sealant gives your doll's face a paper-like texture so that your pencils and powders and stuff actually stick to it. So that is very important in order for my pencil to stick. Now I'm just going in with some gray pastel on my little brush and powdering her lips. I usually sketch a harsh lip line for my dolls, and I usually fill them in with paint pretty harsh. But I wanted to try something different with this doll to give her a softer effect. So I ended up just using pastels for her lips. And I'm just taking that same powder and contouring her cheeks and her cheekbone here. And here is how her finished face sketch was looking. I was using my previous Hysteria doll that I made as reference for her face, as well as other photos of Alice, because I think it's been around 8 months since I made my first one and my style has changed a little bit since then. So I wanted her to still look like Alice in my current style, but still have the essence of my older work. After deepening up her eyes and everything, now I'm going in with a red colored pencil to sketch out all of the blood coming from her eyes and her lips. And if you're familiar with my content and my work at all, you would know that I usually go in with my face ups with a lot of acrylic paint. But after my most recent Laguna custom, where I did the majority of the face up with just colored pencils, I am literally a changed woman. I love working with these colored pencils so much. So most of this face up is done with colored pencil. I just used the red paint for her blood and her eyes because I wanted the same red color to be throughout the doll, for her arms and for all of the blood on her clothes and everything. So to make sure I kept the same red tones throughout the doll, I just used paint for this. And this was how her finished face up was looking. I am so in love with her. I feel like I lost the more intimidating look that I was going for with my first doll, but I still love how she looks. I especially love the contrast and the ombre I was able to get in her eyes. I am just so proud of her. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. But with the base doll done, it's clothing time, starting with her socks. So for her socks, I just took my thigh-high Twyla body pattern that I made. And luckily I had just enough fabric from when I made my last 2 Alice dolls for these tights, so I took that scrap piece of fabric and cut out my pieces. And I made sure that the stripes were as even as I could get them on both sides. Especially when I hemmed the top here, I just hemmed one stripe down to make sure that the tights started with white at the top. And now I'm just pinning them right sides together and sewing them up. After I sewed them up, I made sure to press the seam and folded it inside out. And I did the same thing for the other one. With these socks done, it's time to get into the more difficult part, which is the dress. So if you've watched my other Alice custom doll video, you would have seen that I used Dolliteful's pattern for her dress. And I'm going to be using the same exact pattern for this because it's just too perfect for her. I'll put a picture of the pattern that I'm using on screen, and I'll also make sure that I link it in the description below. But after I cut out all my pattern pieces, I'm just hemming the bottom of the skirt. And everything that you see is hand sewn. I do have a sewing machine, it just is way too big for the space that I have, and I just prefer to hand sew everything. So I am painstakingly hand sewing the bottom of the skirt portion here. And I also forgot to mention, since I've made this pattern 2 other times for my previous dolls, I wanted to alter it a little bit for this one just to fit Alice better. But all I really did was make the skirt a tiny bit longer so that it hit at a better point. Now that everything was hemmed, I'm just attaching the sleeves here, and then I'm just taking my tiny flat iron and pressing the seams. This thing is a godsend for pressing seams on doll clothes. But this is how the top portion of her dress was looking so far. All I really needed to do at this point was attach everything. I tried it on the doll first and it looked a tiny bit too long, so I'm just trimming a little bit off the bottom here, and now I'm just attaching everything and sewing it up the sides. Here I'm just gathering the skirt to give it a little bit of ruffles, and I'm just making sure that all the ruffles are evenly distributed before I tie off that string. Once I was happy with the skirt, I am just pinning it to the top piece and sewing everything together. I am once again pressing that seam with my tiny flat iron. I also forgot to mention I added some lace to the bottom of the dress off camera, but now her dress is nearly done. All I needed to do now was just sew up the back and add some Velcro so that she can actually wear it. Once that was all added, the dress was nearly complete, but not quite yet. While I was looking at photos of her online, I found a video like 360 of her, and I realized that she had blood splatter all on the back of her dress here, so I went ahead and replicated that as close to the game screenshots as I possibly could. After all of those were painted on, I sat her to the side and got working on her apron. So these were my apron pieces that I already cut out and hemmed. I actually lost a lot of footage here because my phone ran out of storage while I was recording, and that file got corrupted and lost, so that's awesome. But I'm just taking all those pieces that I made off camera, unfortunately, and attaching them together. And I'm just adding some tiny adhesive Velcro to the back so that you can take it on and off. I also sewed on these straps to the back of the apron, and this is what it was looking like. But now it's time to get into the fun part, which is making the bow for the apron. So when I make my Alice aprons, I actually use this like dish towel type fabric. It's like a white sublimation blank that my mom gave me for extra fabric. And the hems on that work perfectly for her back bow and actually the middle part of her apron, so that's what I use for this. So I just add some decorative stitching up the sides to make it look more fancy. And after the bow is completely formed, I am taking this 3D printed skull that I painted, you will see shortly, and I am gluing it to the back of the bow. I sewed the bow on to one of the sides of the apron. I just didn't record that because it was actually giving me a lot of difficulty. But once that was all complete, it's time to get into the fun part, which is adding all the blood splatter to the front of the apron. And when I found that 360 video of her, I realized that the skull in the back of her bow was actually blood red, so I just painted that with a couple coats of watered down red paint just to preserve all of the detail work that I had done. And this is how everything was looking. Absolutely in love with how it turned out, but now that all her clothing's done, let's get into her shoes. By the way, I don't know why this footage looks like it was recorded in the fog. Like, it looks like it was recorded on such a crappy camera. I don't know why it looks like I'm in Silent Hill, but anyway. For her shoes, I'm just taking Neon Fright's Draculaurus boots and painting them black. and then sealed them with glossy and matte Mod Podge to give different textures. Once that was all complete, I took some glue and these tiny little buckles and added all the details to her shoes. Alice has a lot of straps and buckles going across the fronts of her shoes, and so do these shoes, like they're literally perfect. I just needed to add all the little buckles. I repeated the same process for her second shoe, of course, but now it's time to get into the final part, which is her accessories. So since I made my last doll, I have gotten a 3D printer, so I am able to do a lot of different things. And I wanted to make sure that I did as much as I could for this doll to make her as cool as possible. So to do that, I printed her a skull for her bow, a hobby horse, a vorpal blade, and then a little charm pendant for her necklace. And I am so happy with all of them and how they turned out. This was how her skull turned out, before I painted it red, of course. And then here I am painting her vorpal blade. I made sure to sand everything before I went in with paint, but to prime I went in with 2 coats of white paint, and then I went in with some silver here. And then for like the detail and like aged effect, I went in with some super watered down black paint and then wiped it off immediately with a paper towel. And doing this gave my prints so much detail. I'm in love with how they turned out. And I of course did not 3D model any of these. Getting into 3D modeling is my next goal actually. I want to learn how to make my own ball jointed dolls. But for these files, I found them all on Colts 3D. I will link them all below for you guys. I did purchase the files and print them all myself though, but please go support the original creators of these files if you guys are interested in printing them yourself. So if you didn't know, Hysteria Alice has her own set of weapons. I will insert them on the screen here. And I was trying to find models of them all, but I could not find models for any of them, so I had to go with other models for her weapons. So I kind of freehanded the design on the hobby horse and the vorpal blade to give them kind of a Hysteria edge. I gave the vorpal blade a black handle and a lot of blood, and then same with the hobby horse. I made it silver with some black details and then made sure to cover it with a lot of blood splatter, just like her actual Hysteria hobby horse, and I am in love with how it turned out. I've painted some tiny prints before, but nothing like this hobby horse, and I am so proud of how it turned out. I love it so much. But with all of her accessories done, I do need to make her a stand because the skull in the back makes it really hard for a clip stand to work with her. So let's make her a saddle stand. So if you didn't know, I'm pretty sure I've mentioned it before, my mom has a laser cutter, so we're able to make custom stands for my dolls. So I worked with my mom to make her a saddle stand, and I made her like a more fancy stand than I usually do. And I really like how it turned out. It's like a 2-layer stand. Normally I just do the 1 circle, but this one has 2, obviously, as you can see. And I thought to best fit Hysteria Alice, the best thing to do would be to paint the base of the stand red and then the sides of it black so that it contrasts. And I also wanted to make the red like bloody like her arms and everything else, so I did the same exact technique that I did on her arms and everything to the base of the stand. Once all of the paint was dry, I went in with some matte Mod Podge to seal everything, and then I added some rubber bumpers on the bottom. So with that, all of her accessories are done, and I wanted to get a little shot of all of her pieces before I actually assemble the doll. So here's everything put together and laid out, starting with her apron, and then going down to her dress and then her socks over here. I also didn't get to show any footage of me making her necklace and her little charm pendant, so there is that as well. And then there's her little weapons. So now that everything is finally all complete, I can put her together, so let's assemble her. Thank you all so much for watching this video, and I really hope that you enjoyed. I had such a blast making this doll, and Alice has such a special place in my heart. I will never not get over making her. Like, she will always be my favorite thing to make. And I really hope that you guys love her as much as I loved making her. And like I said at the beginning of the video, she will be going up for sale next week on June 21st. which is a week from today. It's next Saturday. She'll be going up at 12 p.m. MST. I will put some of the conversions on screen here to help you guys, and I will be selling her for $470 plus shipping. She was priced entirely off my commission pricing, which is on my website, and if you're curious about the cost breakdown, I will put that in the description below, so make sure you check that if you are interested. But yeah, just to repeat, she will be going up for sale on June 21st, which is next Saturday, for $470 plus shipping. She will be available internationally, but just remember, shipping will be extremely expensive if you order internationally, so just keep that in mind. And if you are interested in purchasing her, just remember that if you subscribe to my $5 tier on Patreon, you get a 5% off discount on any commission or shop doll while your subscription lasts. But that is completely up to you. You do get a lot of other things when you sub to my Patreon, so if you're curious, the link will be in the description below. But as always, thank you for my supporters over on my Patreon. Pumpkin Tushy, Morgan, and Samuel, thank you all. I love you all so much. Next week's video will probably be an unboxing while I work on finishing my other 2 shop dolls. My next one will most likely be my Blue Dress Alice, followed by Fearless Juno, so make sure to keep a lookout for updates on those if you're interested. But yeah, thank you so much for watching as always. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I hope you're having an amazing morning, night, evening, whatever it is, wherever you are, and I'll see you guys in next week's video.